We are going to be going over the skills test for topic 10 or 7, combining like terms. The first question on the skills test reads, add 8x minus 7 plus 6x plus 8. Simplify your answer. And notice it says combine like terms. So whenever we see an expression like this, first we want to think about if the parentheses affect the answer. And in this case, they don't, because there's nothing that you need to distribute to both of your sets of parentheses. And so we can go ahead and get rid of those and write our expression as 8x minus 7 plus 6x plus 8. And then from there, like it says above, we want to combine like terms. To combine like terms, we identify things with the same variable, or if they're both constants, we can circle both constants. So I have 8x and then plus 6x, positive 6x that are like terms. I have negative 7 and I have 8 plus 8 that are like terms. 8x plus 6x gives me 14x. Negative 7 plus 8 gives me 1, and I separate my terms with addition because both of my values are positive. So I get the answer 14x plus 1. Okay, for the next example, it says find a sum equivalent to the product 6 times, in parentheses, y plus x, and it says distribute. So we're going to be taking 6 and distributing it to both terms on the inside of the parentheses. So I'm going to distribute it to y and also to x. 6 times y is just 6y. 6 times x is 6x, and because there was addition, it stays addition. I can either write that as 6y plus 6x, or you could also write it the other way around as 6x plus 6y if you want the variables to be in alphabetical order. For question number 3, it says complete the factored form of the expression. When we factor, we look for any common factors between both terms. So we want to start off by making our factor trees. 18a factors into 2 times, or 18 factors into 2 times 9. But even further, 9 can be factored into 3 times 3. So 18 is actually 2 times 3 times 3. And then I can't forget about a. And then 3 is just 3, but for the sake of being able to circle our like terms, or our common factors, I want to factor that into 3 and 1. Because when I circle, I want to see what I have left over. So I see that I have a 3 in common between both of my terms, so that's what goes on the outside of the parentheses. Then on the inside of the parentheses, for the first term, I still have 2 times 3 times a. 2 times 3 times a gives us 6a, so my first term is 6a. My second term, I'm just left with 1, and because both of those are positive, it's separated by addition. So I have 3 times, in parentheses, 6a plus 1 is my answer. For number 4, it says rewrite the expression 14m minus, in parentheses, 5 plus 8m, and it says distribute the negative and combine like terms. So the first thing that I want to do here is rewrite that minus as plus a negative. And then that's just going to change both values in my parentheses to their opposites when I distribute. These parentheses matter because I had a minus sign on the outside of the parentheses. So the 14m still stays 14m. The opposite of 5 is negative 5, so I can write that as plus negative 5. The opposite of 8m is negative m, and because I had addition above, that stays addition. And then from there, I want to go ahead and combine like terms. So I see that I have 14m and a plus negative 8m that are in common, and that's going to give me 6m. And then I have this plus negative 5 that stays in the expression. And the last thing that I want to do, anywhere where I see double signs, I want to fix that. So we know that adding the opposite, or plus and negative, is the same thing as minus. So I'm going to write this as 6m minus 5. So my expression is 6m minus 5 simplified. Okay, for number 5, this is another combining like terms problem. Now looking at this expression, again, there's nothing to distribute to both of our sets of parentheses, so I can rewrite my expression without any parentheses in it. And then from there, I want to find like terms. 2a doesn't have any like terms, so I just put a square around it. Then I have 4b. 4b doesn't have any like terms, so I'm going to put a circle around it, or an oval. And then I'm going to use a triangle to put it around both of my numbers, because anytime that you have constants, just numbers on their own, those can be combined. So when I put this back together, I want to put my variables in alphabetical order. 2a had nothing to combine with. 4b, that's a plus 4b, so it stays as plus 4b. And then I have a positive 8, positive 5, so together that gives me positive 13. So I get plus 13. So I end up getting 2a plus 4b plus 13, and there's nothing else to combine because all of those are not like terms. 2a is not a like term with 4b or 13. Moving on, number 6, it says rewrite the expression 13 minus, in parentheses, negative 9 minus 4m, and it says to distribute the negative and combine like terms. So first thing we want to do is make that minus sign a plus and negative, adding the opposite. Anytime that we have a subtraction, that does affect what's in the parentheses. So I have to deal with that. I have to distribute the negative to both of my terms. So I get 13m. I have that plus sign. Double negative gives me a positive. And then I have minus a negative here. So minus, and then opposite of 4m is negative 4m. And anytime you have minus and negative, that's going to give you plus. So I have 13m plus 9 plus 4m. My like terms now that I've distributed, I can combine like terms. Like terms are 13m and 4m. 9 is kind of by itself. 13m plus 4m gives us 17m. And then we still have that plus 9, positive 9. So that means I'm going to add that to 17m. So I get 17m plus 9, and I can't simplify that any further because those are not like terms. Now for number 7, it says factor the algebraic expression 16a plus 10. So first thing I want to do, like the other one where we factored, is I want to make factor trees for both of my numbers. Now I know that 4 times 4 gives me 16, but 4 can be broken down further into 2 times 2. So I'm going to make 16 2 times 2 times 2 times 2. And then I can't forget about a. So I get 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 times a. My second term is 2 times 5, and I can't break that down any further. So looking at both of my terms, the only thing that I have in common is a 2. So that's going to be what I take to the outside of the parentheses, and then whatever is left over goes on the inside of the parentheses. So for my first term, 2 times 2 times 2 times a, that gives me 8a. For my second term, I'm just left with 5. And because both of these are positive, I separate it with addition. And notice that I had addition in my original expression. I have addition in my factored expression. For the next question, it reads, find a difference equivalent to the product 11 times, in parentheses, x minus y, and it says to distribute. So we're going to use distributive property for that. So I have 11 times x minus y. 11 times x gives me 11x. 11 times y gives me 11y, and because I had subtraction in my parentheses, it stays as subtraction in my final answer. So I get 11x minus 11y. For the next one, it asks us to distribute. So again, I have 3 times, in parentheses, n plus 7. I want to distribute the 3 to both of my terms. 3 times n is just 3n. 3 times 7 is 21. And because I had addition in my parentheses, it's going to stay as addition. So I get the expanded form of this expression as 3n plus 21. And then the very last question, it said, which of these expressions have like terms? Check all that apply. So we're looking for our like terms here. To have like terms, we have to have exactly the same variable combination between both of our terms. So for the first one, I have the terms negative 6m and 4m. Because both of those terms have just m in them, they're going to be like terms. Now with the second one, I have two terms, t and 6.75t. Because the only variable in both of those is t, those would also be like terms. Now the next expression, my first term is 10m, my second term is mn, and so what I see is I have one more variable in this one than I do in the first term. So because of that, those two are not like terms. They do not have exactly the same variable combination. The fourth one, even though our coefficient, the number with the variable, or maybe our coefficient and our constant are the same, both of them do not have the same variable, so because of that, they are not like terms. With the second to last one, we have x, y in both of our terms, and so that means that they are like terms. The last one would not be like terms because one of them has a y, the other has an x. So I only have 3 sets of like terms here.